What's up everybody, welcome back. So in the last video we did the preparations to add the grenades and equipment to our weapon wheel. So today we're gonna finish that up. We're gonna make the buttons work and make sure that we can replace the equipment with different equipment from our inventory. So that's what we're gonna do today. If you like this series, please consider leaving a like. And if you want to get this project file, you can become a member of the YouTube channel or become a Patreon, and then you will get access to the premium channels in the Discord. But there's also a lot of free project files in the Discord, so even if you don't become a member, it's worth having a look in there. So with all of that stuff out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So we're going to do most of the work inside of the widget today. So let's go to the widgets folder and open the weapon wheel widget. First of all, we want to add variables for the new equipment array and the ammo for that. So for example, we can grab the weapon loadout array over here and duplicate this one. And it's going to be the equipment inventory. So we want it to be an array of names, and it needs to be instance editable and exposed on spawn. And we also want an array for the ammo, so I'm going to grab the ammo clip player and duplicate that one, and this is going to be the ammo equipment player. And this needs to be an array of integers, and again instance editable and exposed on spawn. So with those variables in place, we can start changing some functions in here. And the first function we're going to look at is the create weapon wheel button. So let's open this one. So this creates the actual button over here with the icon on top. And in here, we want to make sure that we add a branch for our equipment. So right here, we're checking if it's an empty slot or not. So let's disconnect this branch over here. If it's not an empty slot, we're going to simply add a second branch, and we can check the index that we're changing it for. So our equipment slot will always be index number 3. So let's drag off the index over here and simply compare it. So if this is equal to 3, then we want to change things up a little bit. So if this is false, we can continue to the table row name with the weapon info table. And over here, we're going to grab the equipment info table. So let's copy and paste all of this stuff over here. Connect it to the true pin. So this time we want to grab the equipment info table, and we can simply grab the same row name. And now over here, let's break the structure, and we can get the icon in here. So we have the HUD icon, simply plug it in over here. And if we also connect up our index to the getter, let's not forget that one. So now everything should work, and we have a separate branch for the inventory over here, the equipment, sorry. So the next function we're going to look at is the update weapon info current. So that's this one, and this will actually set all of the stuff in here about the equipment that the player already has. So the current amount of ammo and all that kind of stuff. So let me grab my notes in here. So this is the start of the function. If we scroll to the right, we have this switch on integer. And in here we have the number 3 branch hooked up to the set visibility node. So we can disconnect this one. Yes. So we're going to get rid of it over here. And we simply want to plug it into this branch over here. So it's going to follow the same way as the other slots. And we only want the default pin in the set visibility hidden. So over here we're checking if the slot is empty or not. We can keep doing that. And after the set visibility node, we get the data table. So over here, we want to switch the data table again to the equipment info table. So we're going to disconnect it over here and simply add our branch again. So let's grab a branch, plug it in. And if this returns false, we're going to continue like we used to. And over here, we want to check our hovered slot index. So we actually have that stored in a variable. So we can grab it in over here and simply compare it. So if this is equal to 3, that means we are looking at an equipment item and we want to grab the equipment info table. So let's grab the local weapon row name with the data table. and switch it for the equipment info table. Now we can break the structure over here. And there's a few things we want to do a little bit different. So first of all, we can grab the name and simply set it. That's going to be the same. So the text weapon wheel name, and we can plug in the display name. For the damage, we don't need to do any calculations. So we can simply grab the set text node over here with the format text. Paste it over here, and we probably want to get the truncate node as well, by the way. Plug it in. So we actually have the damage stored in the data table. So I'm going to grab the maximum damage, and that's the throwable damage. So simply plug it in over here. And then we have the current ammo of the player. So we're going to skip the DPS for now. And then we have the text weapon ammo for the weapon wheel. And we want to get the weapon inventory over here as well. And we can grab the two text nodes or grab a truncate node, that doesn't really matter. So let's move this over here. Okay. So in this case, we don't want to grab the weapon inventory of the player, but we want to grab the equipment inventory. So the new variable that we just added. And we can still look for the local weapon row name, that's fine. And after we get this return value, we want to look for that value inside of the ammo array. So we're going to drag in the ammo array and get a copy. So we can plug it in over here. And this return value is going to be the ammo amount. So this is already an integer. So we're going to simply use a toText node. And that should work. So for the maximum ammo, we can grab it from the data table again. So let's grab the text setter over here, copy it to the upper branch, and this time we're gonna grab it from our equipment info table. So the ammo maximum, plug it in over here. And then the last thing we want to do is simply hide the text for the weapon wheel DPS. So I'm not gonna enter any DPS because this is an explosive. So that doesn't really make sense. So text DPS weapon wheel, and I'm simply going to set the visibility and set it to hidden. So this will be our equipment branch. And now because we did this hidden stuff over here, we want to copy it and paste it in the branch below to make sure if we switch from equipment back to a weapon that we actually show our weapon wheel DPS again. So let's set it to visible in the previous branch. And I think that should be it for this function. Yeah, that should be good. So now we have this function updated and good to go as well. And first of all, let's make sure that we pass on the new variables in our player controller and our base character. So let's close the widget for a second, and we're going to go to the framework folder, open up our shooter player controller over here. And in here we have the UI open weapon wheel function, and we have two new inputs in our create widget node. So first of all, we're simply going to pass them on to the event over here. And now we also want to make sure that we update them if the widget is already valid. So in the second branch over here for is valid, we want to drag off the weapon wheel and simply set them manually. So we're going to set our equipment inventory and drag off the weapon wheel again and set the ammo equipment. So make sure you hook them up after the branch over here. So let's move this over and plug them in. And make sure you also hook them up to the event so they are actually populated. And this should be good to go as well. So now the last thing we want to do for this to work is go to the hero base character. And inside of here. Oh, it's already complaining about our new inputs. So we want to go to the input action for the weapon wheel and make sure we plug in our arrays over here. And we simply have them stored somewhere. So let's go all the way over here. Our equipment inventory, plug it in over here. And then we have our ammo equipment, and that's the second new input. So we want to do this inside of the input action for the weapon wheel, and we also have the event for the replace weapon menu. So in here we also need to plug them in, otherwise it's going to complain about it. So the equipment inventory and the ammo equipment, simply hook them up, and now we should be good to go. So the errors are gone as well. And so if we save this, we should be able to have a quick look in game. Let's just test this solo quickly. So we actually have an icon, although it's pretty stretched. So we need to look into that. And the information inside here is working. So we have it updated for the grenade with the proper ammo. The ammo and the damage. Okay, so that could be worse. But we can't actually throw a grenade, so that might be an issue as well. So the ammo is updating, that's good. Okay, so we need to look at the HUD icon, and we cannot throw any grenades. Okay, so first of all, let's go to our weapons folder, and we want to open our equipment info table. So over here, I didn't fill in the actor classes. I don't think we created them yet. At the moment, we created the data table, so you might want to make sure you have the actor class set up in here as well. So for the normal grenade, that's going to be grenade normal. And for the ice grenade, that's going to be grenade ice. So now we should be able to throw grenades in game again. And to fix the HUD icon, we simply want to go to the widget for the weapon wheel. And over here, the actual icon, I just want to resize it. So the image size, I'm going to make it 70 by 70. And I want to make sure that over here for the render transform, I'm going to set the angle to 135. So otherwise it's upside down. So that should fix the icon. Well, let's just continue. We can have a quick look if it's working later. We're already in the weapon wheel widget, so we're going to go back to the graph, and we want to make sure that our selection menu also works. So if we right click, then the menu pops up, so we can select what kind of equipment we want to use. And first of all, we need to go inside of the create selection menu function. So let's open that one up. And we're going to start at the beginning over here. And we want to add some local variables to make it a little bit less messy. So first of all, we're going to set a local variable for the weapon inventory array. So we can change it out for the equipment array as well. So let's create a local variable. And I'm going to call this the local inventory array. So this is an array of names. And then over here, right before the for each loop, so we have a for each loop that clears all of the previous buttons, and then we're starting the next for each loop, looping through the inventory. So we're going to disconnect this array variable over here and disconnect the execution pin. So the first thing we want to do is make a branch in here to check what slot we are actually looking at. And if this is our slot number 3, then we're going to change it up. So we're going to grab the selection for slot integer over here. And if this is equal to 3, plug it inside of our branch. So if this is true, then we're going to set our local inventory array to our equipment inventory. And if this is false, we're going to set the local inventory array to our weapon inventory. So simply hook them up like this. And after that, we're going to continue to the for each loop. And over here, we want to plug in the local inventory array. So now we're looping through the correct array. And then we're going to change it up over here as well. Right before we go into the data table, again, we want to check what slot we are looking at and change our data table that we're also looking at. So again, we're going to grab our selection for slot branch and check if this is slot number 3. So hook this up to the true pin if the slot is not empty. If this is not an equipment slot, we're going to use our weapon info table. And if this is an equipment slot, we want to use our equipment info table. So let's plug this into the true pin and make sure that we grab our row name from here. So this is going to be the equipment info table, and then break the structure. There we go. So now it is a little bit easier if we use some local variables in here as well. So I'm going to promote the display name to a local variable, local display name, and do the same thing for the weapon type. So go down here, our weapon type enumeration, promote to local variable, local weapon type. There we go. So hook this up to the row found pin. And then I'm gonna grab the data table over here for the weapon stuff and do the same thing. So disconnect the row found pin and grab our local variables and set them first. So the display name over here and the weapon type over here. So then with both of them, we can continue to the replace weapon menu branch over here. That was already in here. And then over here, we can plug in our local variable. So let's drag that in first and replace it for the switch on enumeration over here. And then we want to add the slot to our switch on integer. So we're going to add a new pin in here for our number 3 slot. And again, we're going to switch on our weapon type. So there we go. And this time, so hook this up to the number 3 slot, and this time we only want to continue if this is a throwable item. So let's grab the throwable pin and plug it into the create widget over here. And for the other branches, we're simply going to stop the execution, so that should be good to go. And then we want to change a little bit at the end of the function over here. So this should pretty much work. Yes, this should be good to go. If we go to the completed pin of the for each loop, down here, we're setting the visibility, or we're actually enabling or disabling our button number 1. So that's the clear button over here. And we want to make sure that we do the same thing for our equipment. So after the is replace weapon menu branch for the false pin, we're going to disconnect it. Move this over a little bit. And then again, we can grab our branch with the checking for selection for slot. So let's copy and paste the branch over here. And if this is an equipment slot, then we want to grab our button number 1 and simply disable it. So connect this to the true pin and set the set enabled to false. And then the stuff that was previous here, we're going to connect it to the false pin and then simply continue. And for this branch, we also want to set the render opacity as well. So this should be hooked up like this. And now this should work as well. So now the selection menu should be populated with the correct equipment inside of our inventory. So this might be a good moment to have a quick little test. So we cannot actually test it yet because I forgot one small thing. So let's go back into the WeaponWheel widget, and for the mouse event, so on mouse button down, in here we still don't have our number 3 integer hooked up. So if we hovered slot index 3 and right click, we want to make sure the menu appears. So we're going to disconnect the number 3 branch over here, and I'm going to change the header text. So we're going to say select equipment over here. And then we simply want to hook it up to the hovered slot index that sets the selection for slot. So now we only have the default pin hooked up to the close selection menu, and the other integers are all hooked up. Okay, so now we should be able to have a quick test and see if anything actually changed in here. So let's make sure we can throw a grenade again, and that seems to be working, so that's good. And we have our icon fixed as well, and if we right click, the equipment menu actually pops up. So we don't have any other equipment in the inventory yet, so that's why nothing is in here, and we still need to set up this info card, so that's why that's not working. But other than that, we are making progress, so that seems to be good. Let's go back into the WeaponWheel widget and make sure that the info card on the right side here is working. And for that, we want to go to the update weapon info for the pickup, so this function. And let me grab my notes in here because this is quite a big function. So again, I want to add two local variables to make it a little bit easier. So we're gonna scroll all the way down and add two new local variables. The first one is the local ammo player. And this is going to be a text variable. And then I also want to add the local ammo maximum. So this is just to make the graph look a little bit cleaner. So we're at the beginning of the function over here. We're checking the equipment row name. And then we're checking if the slot is empty. So if we're following the through branch over here, we want to make sure that we set our new local variables as well. So drag in the local ammo player and the local ammo maximum. Plug them in over here. And then, well, I could add something like a little dash or something in here. So if the slot is empty, at least something shows up. And then we want to make sure that we hide the DPS comparison and the fire rate comparison, because those don't really apply to our equipment. So I'm going to grab my local, not local variables. We're going to go up over here. And we actually want the text variables, so the actual text inside of the widget. And we're going to grab our DPS comparison and the DPS selection. Yes. And we're also going to grab the fire rate comparison and the fire rate selection. And for all four of those, we simply want to set the visibility. And we're going to hide them. So let's plug it in over here again. Make sure the visibility is hidden. And then plug everything in here. Oh, sorry, over here we're going to set them to visible. So this is if the slot is empty, and in that case we can simply show them. If we are showing equipment, we're going to hide them later. So over here, set these to visible. So this branch should simply continue to our branch with the local is equipped weapon. So I didn't change that over here. I simply moved over the pin. Now this part is done, and we're going to move to the false branch. So if the slot is not empty, over here we're checking the weapon info table, and if we cannot find this row, we can simply move on to the equipment info table. So let's drag off the row not found pin, and we're going to get a table row again. Oh, that's the wrong one. So I can just copy this one, why not? So row not found, we're going to move on to our equipment info table. Again, plug in our weapon row name over here. That should work fine. So we can break the structure again. And we want to populate most of our text variables. So we can simply grab the name and the class setters and paste them over here. So the display name, plug it in over here. And then for the class, inside of this, it's a name variable, but that's not really an issue. It's simply going to convert it for you. The next thing we want to do is grab the damage text. So we can actually copy that from our upper branch over here. So we're gonna grab the isEquipped weapon branch and then the setters for the damage equipped and damage selected and also the text setters over here. Copy all of that stuff, paste it inside of the new branch below here, and hook it up to the correct data table. So this is going to be the throwable damage from our equipment info table. And that should make the damage work. Then we can set the local icon. So we can simply copy that and paste it over here as well. Plug it in and grab it from the data table again. So the other stuff are the DPS and the fire rate. So we're not going to mess with those because that doesn't really apply to our equipment. But we do want to set our ammo variables, and that's why we created the new local variables. So first of all, let's grab our local ammo player. We're going to set it over here, and we're going to set it to our equipment inventory. So we're going to grab that from our variables. And from this, we want to get our weapon row name. And that should be in here. Oh, that's from the input over here, the weapon row name. So that's not actually a variable in the list, but we can get it like we do over here. So simply plug that in, and we don't want a get node, but we want a find node. So we want to find our current weapon inside of the equipment inventory, and then we can grab our ammo array and get that index. So get a copy of this index. And this is our ammo value. So we can truncate it. It's already an integer, sorry. So we want to get a toText node. We cannot truncate an integer. So let's grab a toText for a int and simply hook it up. There we go. And then we want to set the maximum ammo. So let's grab that setter in here as well. And we can simply grab this from our equipment info table. So let's grab the toText node and plug it in over here to the ammo maximum. So we have the ammo values set in case we are doing equipment. Now over here, we want to hide the DPS and the fire rate text like I mentioned before. So if we go back up here, we can copy this set visibility node with the text variables. Go to our new equipment branch and hook it up over here. But this time we're going to set them to hidden. There we go. So this should be good for our equipment branch. So we can grab this execution and hook it up to our isReplace weapon menu branch over here. Oh, I'm screwing up. So to this replace weapon menu over here. So that's actually the one that goes all the way back to the beginning to the set visibility node as well. So over here, after this branch, we're actually setting all the text variables to our local variables that we just populated. So you want to continue to that branch over here. Then if we go back to our weapon branch, after the local icon, we can disconnect it. And we actually want to set these ammo values first. So we're going to grab our isReplace weapon menu branch that's back here. And this gets a little bit confusing. So this was hooked up after the local fire rate. And this doesn't, well, it kind of makes sense. But over here, we're setting the ammo first. So over here, I want to set the ammo first as well inside of our local variables. And then we're going to continue over here. So you want to disconnect this branch and hook it up to the local icon. And then we can simply store these inside of our local variables. So we can get rid of these two text nodes over here. And let's remove this one as well. So we actually do need this. So this is the weapon branch. We have set the local icon. We're going to check if this is our replace weapon menu. So over here, we're going to set our local ammo variables. So let's grab our local ammo player. And we want to set that over here first. So if this is actually a pickup, we're getting the pickup ammo clip and the ammo stock, adding them together. And those are going to be for the local ammo player. So let's plug them in over here. So this goes into the true pin if this is a replace weapon menu. So if we are replacing a weapon. If this is false, then we simply want to get the ammo values from the player. So we're going to get the local ammo player, copy and paste it again, hook this up to the false pin. And then we can simply grab the stuff we already had in here. So we're getting the weapon inventory with the weapon row name, getting the correct ammo values from the player, add them together, store them in the ammo for the player. Then we need to set the ammo maximum. So let's grab the local ammo maximum, plug that in over here, and we're simply getting those from the data table, adding them together and converting them to an integer. So those come from the weapon info table over here. And now we have those stored inside of our local variables. So we can make sure that we hook this up over here back to our local is equipped weapon branch. Grab both of them. And then we're setting all of the text variables. So after that, we also want to set our ammo max and ammo player. So we can simply hook them up at the end over here. So this will set the text for the ammo selection and the ammo maximum, and we can simply plug in our ammo player for the selection and the ammo maximum for the maximum selection. So yeah, a bit confusing. I'm sorry. I hope everything kind of made sense, and I hope I didn't screw up as well. There we go. So if I would neatly lay this out, now we're first setting all of the local variables, and then we're actually populating the text with them. So now everything is in sync with this branch as well. There's one thing we need to do in here, and that's grab our set visibility node for the weapon DPS and fire rate, and make sure we set them back to visible again. So we're going to do that over here after we set the local variables for the ammo count in the weapon branch. Simply add the visibility node in here as well, and make sure you set everything back to visible. So this function has become a huge mess, and it's definitely time to clean this up, but it should work. So that's the good thing. So let's compile and save, and right now we should be able to go in game and actually replace equipment as well. So to test that, we need a third equipment slot, but for that we need actual pickups. So we're gonna do that in the next episode. What we can do right now is go to our hero base character and make sure that we have both of the equipment types in our inventory. So if we go to our setup weapon inventory function, at the end over here, we can simply add them manually for now. So we're going to grab our add equipment to inventory node in here, copy it and paste it. Hook it up right after the other one. So in this case, we're going to set inventory index 1, and we're going to set it to the ice grenade. So now we have both grenades in here, but we do need to make sure that we start this index at 2. Otherwise, we're overriding it again with an empty slot. So now if we start the game, we should have both equipment types inside of the inventory, and we should be able to switch between them. So let's have a little look. We're starting with the normal grenade. That's the wrong button. There we go. So if I go to my weapon wheel, I can right click right now, and it's not working. So that's nice. So let me check and see what I forgot, and I'll be right back. Okay, that wasn't too bad. So if we go inside of the WeaponWheel widget, so for the graph, we have the create selection menu function, and in here I did create the local variable for the display name, but I forgot to replace it over here. So if we create the widget for the button, we want to plug in our local display name variable. So the button was actually working, it was just that the name wasn't showing up, so it looked like it was empty, but it wasn't. So if we plug in the local display name, the button should work. And there is one small other thing. So if I go back inside of my equipment info table, I didn't set my new HUD icon for the ice grenade, so the icon looked the same. So make sure inside of the data table you have the ice grenade and the normal grenade with the different HUD icon. And then this should work. So right now, if we go in game, we should be able to switch equipment. So if I right click, we have two types of grenades in here, and I can switch to my ice grenade, and now it should be changed. There we go, and I can go back over here and switch it again, and now it should be back. There we go. So that's working. So now the only thing left to do is create pickups for our equipment and make sure that we can replace equipment if our inventory over here is full. So that's the last thing we're going to do in the next episode, and then we should have our weapon wheel and equipment system pretty much wrapped up. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later, guys. Bye bye.